Welcome. In Mathematica, you work with what are called notebooks. They have some features in common with software that you might be familiar with, like word processors or spreadsheets, but they have a number of other features which make them somewhat unique. This here is a notebook. I'll just click to select it. You can see that it includes text of different kinds, a heading text, Lesson 00, Introduction to Mathematica, and some subheadings. And beside these subheadings, you'll notice these little double arrow figures. If it's pointing to the right like this, it means that that section is collapsed. We can expand that selection by just clicking on that. Then the two arrows point downwards, and everything inside it can be seen. Notice that there are further subsections within that section. And I'm just going to close this back up again for a second. Also notice that over here on the right-hand side of the screen, there are these little containers, these little brackets. And what those indicate is they indicate what are called cells. And the cells can include other cells and so on. In other words, they're nested. When you see a cell bracket that looks like this with the little downward pointing arrow, that indicates that the bracket is closed. So that's telling us the same thing that this little double right arrow is telling us. If we select that bracket, we can choose the whole section, and if we double click on it, it will expand the selection. And I'll just scroll up here. Notice this blue coloring on this cell bracket. It indicates that we have selected that whole section. If I want to select a different section, I just move my mouse cursor until it rotates to form this little straight up and down bar with an arrow pointing to it. And I click on that. Now I've chosen this first section. If I want to collapse a section, I double click on it. Notice that the cell bracket has turned to the downward pointing arrow, and we've now got these two little right arrows up here. I can expand with this, or I can expand by double clicking on the bracket. The first command here simply clears all of the work that we've done before. In order to execute that, I move my cursor until it becomes straight up and down like that, vertical, and I click anywhere inside that cell. I hold down the Shift key and I press Return or Enter. And what that does is it clears all of the contents that we have defined before. It basically gives us a blank slate to start working with. Now, one of the things that makes a Mathematica notebook different from a word processing document is that these individual cells are separated from one another. So this isn't just a blank sheet where you type things in and you keep typing and typing and typing. Instead, what you do is you create these little containers to hold the information. This first cell here contains text, and it says Mathematica notebooks are hierarchically structured documents. If I look at the right-hand column, or right-hand side again of my notebook, I can see that the next cell contains the next paragraph of text. And the beginning cell in this particular section is a subsection, and it tells us that it contains everything below it. So if I were to highlight this whole thing here, this whole thing is grouped together into one unit. If I double-click on that, the whole thing collapses, and I can expand it as I've just shown you. Now, in addition to paying attention to this nested or hierarchical structure of your notebooks, you also want to pay attention to what your cursor is doing. So for example, when my cursor is over a cell, I have a vertical bar, and I can click to enter that cell, and I can start editing, just as I would in a word processor. If I want to edit the next cell, I move into it and I can click and edit things just like I would in a word processor. When my cursor is between cells, notice that it turns to become horizontal like this. If I click on the cursor now, I create this horizontal line that runs right across my notebook, and that shows me that if I were to start typing, I'd be creating a new cell. This is a new cell. Now note that that's blue. Cells can be different kinds. The black cells that we've been looking at have text in them, and I can convert this to a text cell simply by choosing this section that says Convert to Text Cell. Now it's a text cell just like the other ones. If I didn't want a text cell, if If I wanted to create a cell where I'm actually doing some kind of computation, I can click to create one of these insertion points. I can type, say, 2 plus 2, and if I hold down the Shift and press Enter, Mathematica will do the computation and it will return the result. This first cell is called my input cell, and the second cell is called my output cell, and notice that it gives me the result of the computation in the input cell. If I want to get rid of something, I can select the whole cell bracket and just hit the Delete key on my keyboard, and that removes it altogether. If we want to select multiple cells, we can do that by choosing a cell bracket and then holding down the Shift key and on Mac OS X or the Control key on Windows and click to select a bunch of things. So I can select a number of cells like that if I want. Don't want the selection? Hit Escape to get rid of it. Oh, no, my mistake. Just click anywhere to get rid of it. If we want to change the style of a cell, we choose its bracket like this, and then we go to our menu and we choose Format and Style on the main Mathematica menu. And we can get a list of different kinds of options here, and we can just choose one. Let's change this to a subsection, say. Now it's got different formatting and includes more things below it. Experiment with this. Open up a sample notebook, start typing stuff in, playing around with it, and see what you get to. I'm going to change the style back to a subsection, or a subsection, which is what it was. There are also a lot of formatting shortcut keys, which I encourage you to learn because they make it much more efficient to interact with your notebooks. Now suppose we wanted to combine two cells together. Here I have one paragraph that says two separate cells of the same kind, so this is a text cell, this is a text cell beneath it. If I choose both of those cells and go to Cell Merge on my menu, it will join the two of them together. Notice now they have a single bracket. If I want to divide them in two, I just place the cursor where I want to divide it, and I go Cell, Divide Cell. And now we've created an extra blank here, which I can get rid of with the Delete key.